need to reintroduce that? All right. Ms. Fetters, would you call the roll, please?
David Cash,
Here.
Stephen Wanamaker,
Here.
Gary Gross,
Here.
Jerry Heidenreich,
Here.
Thomas Evans,
Here.
and AJ Mantell.
Thank you. Would you all stand with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. All right. Did everyone get a copy of the minutes from the February 5th meeting? Any changes, amendments, modifications?
I'll move to accept those minutes.
Okay, thank you. Second?
Mr. Cash,
Yes.
Mr. Wanamaker,
Yes.
Mr. Gross,
Yes.
Mr. Heidenreich,
Abstain.
Mr. Evans,
Yes.
Thank you. All right, the first hearing on the agenda is a request for an area and dimensional variance, case number 4-25. This is a request by applicant Dennis Beatty on behalf of property owner Zach Farrell for an area and dimensional variance for the property at 2004 Winton Street to construct a new single-family dwelling on a parcel that does not meet the minimum lot width site development standard for the subject zoning district. The property is zoned R4, attached residential district. The lot width is approximately 49 feet wide. Middletown Development Code, Chapter 1204.10B requires single-family dwellings to be constructed on lots that are a minimum of 70 feet wide. And I guess before we start, I need to swear you in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Now, Ms. Fetters, if you'd present the staff analysis, thanks.
All right, so this is for 2004 Winton Street. I do want to call out in the public noticing that I mailed and also posted in the legal newspaper that it was called out as 2000 Winton Street. The applicant had an error on the variance application. So this is for 2004, not 2000 Winton Street. Per the application submitted, the applicant requests a lot width variance due to the lot being an infill lot that does not meet today's site development standards. The applicant notes that the exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of the property qualifies the property for a variance. The applicant does not believe, if granted, the variance would negatively impact surrounding properties or affect the delivery of governmental services. So this subject property is in the R4 zoning district. The purpose of the R4 zoning district, which is the attached residential district, is to provide for moderate to high density residential development generally located in the core area of the city, and that reflects the historic urban development pattern in and around downtown Middletown. Per the Middletown Development Code, Chapter 1204-10, Part B, Table 1204-4, single-family dwellings in the R4 zoning district must have a minimum lot width of 70 feet to be constructed on. The applicant requests a decrease in the minimum lot width by approximately 21 feet to allow for the construction of a single-family home on the subject parcel. And then per the Middletown Development Code, the requirement for legal notice for variance requests and meeting notice letters for the proposed area and dimensional variance were sent to all property owners contiguous and directly across the street or public right-of-way of the subject property. And 2 comments have been received to date and forwarded to the board members. However, both are included in the presentation tonight. On the screen is the first public comment received. And then this is the second public comment received today, and as well as the attachments provided.
Is that your
I'll flip.
subject to question? Is that your staff report?
I'm going to get through the
Okay.
attachments and then.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I thought you were waiting for me.
Nope, I was just letting you guys read through it. I know that'd be a quick read through though. So this is the variance application submitted for the 2004 Winton Street. The zoning permit submitted, this will be requesting an administrative waiver under that. So all single-family first, like a ranch-style home, have to be at least 1,500 square feet of livable dwelling space. They're asking for an administrative waiver, so that's not you guys, that I can apply a 10%, up to a 10% variance on that. So that's why it is not 1,500 square feet. Here is the site plan. And as you can see, the surrounding properties are also about the same width. So they're all non-conforming lots. Some construction plans. The elevations are shown. The proposed building materials are still up in the air, but again, that's not you guys. The zoning map, your review criteria, and the time limit and appeals, and that will conclude my staff report.
Any questions for Ms. Fetters from the board members?
Ms. Fetters, just to, maybe it's in here and I missed it. The setbacks that they are using, they do conform with that zoning of the 6 foot on each side?
Yes, so this is for, it'll be 7.5 feet on each
Okay, there.
side, and then 40 feet from the right-of-way. So on our zoning map, all yellow lines are parcel lines, and they are estimate. So anything that has to do with perhaps 2008 is over the lot line, that would be between the property owners and not. And again, everything you see on there is estimated.
Was this this lot became available because we tore a house down as part of the urban renewal project? Or?
I did not look into demolition of this. I was a little short on time, unfortunately, so I can't answer that.
So, and this is only needed because this is a new structure that's going on to that property, this variance,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Because it appears, and of course, I'm assuming this whole neighborhood might have been developed before the development of the code was enacted.
Yep, the most recent site development standard.
So, okay, thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Fetters? If not, I will open the public portion of this hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on behalf of, in favor of the application, please step forward. And is that working now?
It is.
It is, good. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Identify yourself, please.
Dennis Beatty, architect, 1900 First Avenue, Middletown. I've been doing quite a few of these infill lots, and of course, we have to work with what the lot size is. That's why we're here, because the lot size doesn't meet our requirement. We're trying to build a nice house for Middletown residents, brings in income for the city, taxes. And basically, I've got 3 of these tonight, so it's gonna be the same thing. Just like I built 2 houses on Central, you know, we're trying to take these lots and put nice houses for citizens of Middletown. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Beatty? Okay, thanks, Dennis. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the application, please come forward. Anyone wishing to oppose the application, please come forward. Ma'am, if you'll come to the dais here. And raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. And identify yourself, if you would, ma'am.
My name is Carolyn Hayes. I live at 4255 South Dixie Highway. My brother, who is here, lives in 2008 Winton Street. So I have a letter from him that I'm going to read, and then I also have a letter from that I wrote that I want to read. And some of this has changed, so from what I understand, you guys have a copy of this. I picked up my brother before we came to this meeting, and I have a picture on my phone if you want to see the actual lot and how close his house is to the property line. And he has a fence there. And when I read the initial,
Does it look like that photograph there?
it's a little different angle.
Okay, but for all intents and purposes,
Yeah.
fairly accurate?
It's just the angle from the fence.
Okay,
So
good.
Is it the brick house there is 2008?
no, it's the one on the gray house on the left.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. So I will go ahead and start reading this. The measurement, the approximately 49 feet is not 49 feet. But let me get started with this. My name's Carolyn Hayes. I go by Beth. I live at 4255 South Dixie Highway in Middletown, Ohio. Speaking on behalf of my brother, Robert Hagan, who resides at 2008 Winton Street in Middletown. My brother shared a letter he received with me from the zoning board stating that Dennis Beatty has requested or has submitted a request on behalf of the property owner, Zach Farrell, for an area and dimensional variance for the property, which is adjacent to 2000 Winton Street, in order to construct a new single-family dwelling. This sparked several concerns. And I attached pictures to this, so you do have the pictures of that also. And the picture in the letter does not correctly depict the lot in question. The picture also does not show the location of my brother's house at 2008 Winton Street in relation to the new structure. I've attached pictures to this email gathered from Google Maps. The first item is the overhead view of the properties. Item 2 is the view of the small parcel in question, and the third item is the view from my brother's home, the end of the driveway, towards the parcel in question. And according to the letter, the property owner wants to build a house between the two existing homes. According to the letter, the parcel in question is 21 feet shy of the minimum required width of 70 feet. This is where it got interesting. When I picked up my brother, I didn't go on the grass. All I had to do was count the sidewalk squares. Sidewalk squares, they're 5 feet long. So the part that faces the street, that abuts to the street right there, 7.5 times 5, 7.5 squares. So that's 37.5 feet. When you take off the setback on the side, 6 foot on each side, that brings your building area on the front half of this lot to 25.5 feet. That's not much. And that picture that showed the new building right up against my brother's house, it would be right up against my brother's house. But it's not 49 feet. So the new construction presents a significant safety and fire hazard, not to mention the invasion of privacy my brother will have to endure. He's lived in this home for more than 25 years. The prospective building site is too small. The required minimum side yard setback for the proposed structure is 6 feet on each side. In my letter, the current width is 49 feet, which is 37.5. So it does not allow much space for a new dwelling. I feel this proposal, if approved, will cause physical and mental duress for my brother. He's lived peacefully at his residence in Mayfield for 25 years. This building will remove any privacy on the north side of his house. He's very concerned about this situation and is losing sleep over it. This will be another income-based rental property for a very prominent landlord who owns many rental properties in Middletown. The new income for him will come at a cost that my brother will have to pay with his personal space. This should not be forced on another Middletown citizen. Our families have lived in Middletown our entire lives, and we support this town. I ask that the zoning board retain the current zoning ordinance and decline the request for a dimensional variance. The parcel's too small, it poses a hazard in the event of a fire, and it will consume any privacy my brother has between him and his neighbor. The zoning laws were designed for a reason, and the proposal does not illustrate the actual properties that will be affected by this construction. Thank you for your consideration. This is
They're
mine.
already in the record, ma'am. The emails that you sent,
Yes.
that went to Ms. Fetters, they're already in the record, so thank
Okay.
you.
But the measurements of what she has
I wanted to ask you about that.
is not accurate. And like I said, I counted the sidewalk squares. I didn't get a tape measure out. My brother measured a sidewalk square, it's 5 feet long, 7.5 squares. That's the width of this property that faces the street. Do you want me to still read yours? Okay. So this is for my brother. My name is Robert Hagan. I reside at 2008 Winton Street in the city of Middletown. I recently received notification that Dennis Beatty submitted a request on behalf of the property owner, Zach Farrell, for an area and dimensional variance for the property at 2004 Winton Street in order to construct a new single-family dwelling. According to the letter, the parcel or property is 30% shy, which is now greater than that. The width is 42.5 feet wide. According to Middletown Code Chapter 1204.109, requires a single-family dwelling R4 residential to be constructed on lots that are a minimum width of 70 feet. This new construction presents a monumental invasion of privacy. I've lived in this home for more than 25 years. The prospective building site is approximately 42.5 feet, which does not leave a desirable side yard setback. The purpose of the side yard setback is to provide space between neighboring houses to ensure privacy and adequate light access. On a side note, this property is, the property that's next to it, 2000, is a rental property owned by Zach Farrell. The new dwelling will also presumably be a rental property. As most of us are aware, Mr. Farrell owns several rental properties in Middletown. Mr. Farrell has a history with our city council. He was elected to the city council by the citizens of this town. According to a news article, Mr. Farrell quickly resigned his position on council when his residence eligibility was brought into question. I feel that this proposal is just another income-based rental property for Mr. Farrell at the expense of another Middletown citizen. I may have lived in my home for the past 25 years, but I've been a citizen of Middletown for the past 56. I support our town. I've also talked to many neighbors around said property. They are not happy about another house being built there. Concerns about noise, dust, and it most likely being another rental and added traffic. There is already a high amount of traffic and parking issues in the area. I ask that the zoning board take in consideration the effects of this proposal on myself and my family, and adhere to the current zoning ordinance and decline the request for a dimensional variance. Thank you for your time, Robert Hagan.
Hold on. Sir, I want to ask your sister a couple of questions.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Hayes? I do. Your brother's lived there. We'll ask him, but your brother's lived there 25 years.
Correct.
Was there not a house on that lot at any point in time while your brothers lived there and the other resident, in between there's never been a residence there? Okay, all right.
Correct?
And, well, let him testify.
Yep.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you for your time.
Sir, if you want to address the board, come forward and be sworn. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Identify yourself if you
My
would,
name is
sir.
Robert Hagan, 2008 Winton Street. Your question, which you also asked, as far as I know, there's never been a house on that property. I know the guy that lived there before Farrell bought that property, and he lived there since he was a kid. As far as I know, there's never been anything. My lot is wider in the front than it is the back. So I don't know where the measurement that he had on the paperwork is from the back part of the lot or the front. My front, because I'm not sure when my house was built in the 40s. They gave that little bit of land so the house could be built wider back then. So the front lot is wider by almost 6 feet than what the back is. And I assume if he's trying to build it up right in that area, that there's even less room than that. That's more what she was talking about. So beyond that, some of the neighbors I've talked to, they don't want it. They don't want the dust. There's already too much traffic there. The guy at 2000 has some kind of business he runs, and there's traffic in and out all day long. And it's just going to add to the congestion of that street. It's a main drag. There's already people going up 30, 40 mile an hour all day long. It's a mess. So that's all. I just wanted to add to what she.
Hold on, in case anybody has any questions for you.
Okay, yeah. That's fine.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Hagan?
I do.
Go ahead.
Who maintains that lot currently?
The tenant of 2000.
Okay.
But the tenant does, not
The man in the brick house, apparently.
yes, he pays to take care of that, the grass on that lot, yes.
And the title is under whose name?
As far as,
Well, I guess the title now is under,
Zach.
what, Zach's name?
I was.
How long has he
I
had that?
assumed that was all one parcel, but I assume he owns both of them. So,
Any other questions? Ms. Fetters, could you show us, the next photo on your presentation, I think, is the overhead with the estimations. There you go. Sir, you see where the yellow arrow is? That is the proposed house that that's the basis of this application. You see that?
barely.
Oh.
See the yellow?
Yeah, it's not as easy as it is on my computer screen. And you live to the
South of
if
that.
that's south.
Yes.
And of course, I think Ms. Fetters indicated that the yellow lines are obviously estimations because that runs through your house there. And I'm assuming did you have the house built or did you buy it after it was already constructed?
I bought that in 2001, yes.
Well, and again, these are estimations, but doesn't it appear that all of those lot fronts are about the same distance?
Like I say, I can barely see it from here, but if you see my lot, there's actually an outcropping on that, just a little bit.
Here, I'm going to let you, and then if you return to the dais, so, because that's the same one, but go ahead and take it over there with you. I don't need it. No, you need to speak into the microphone there. Sorry, sir.
I understand.
We got a record we're on.
This does not show that. Actually, if you look at Butler County, it shows the difference in the lots.
Well, have you looked at the plat at the Butler County Engineer's Office?
Not
auditor's
2004, I haven't. But I know on the 2008 it shows, in fact, it shows mine's over that line. It shows it's over the line because the line was extended when the house was built.
But my point being, it just looks like from that overhead, again, with estimated lines, which I could ask Ms. Fetters, I'm assuming those lines are drawn from a plat or from some type of an engineer's drawing
So our GIS administrator gets all of his data from the counties.
from the county.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess that's my concern. It just looks like from these, if they're estimations, it just looks like everyone's lot appears to be, including yours. And I haven't taken a ruler to it, but it just appears that they all look about the same width.
But I can tell you sure mine's different because my fence actually goes down beside my house and then comes back to the back fence is different. There's literally two different.
Okay.
I can show you by the fences. I don't have a picture of it right now, but I don't know if that shows what she took. I don't know.
Right, yeah.
But yes, yeah, you physically, you can see the fence is 5 feet wider in the front than it is the back.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Hagan?
Well, I just have a couple, I don't know if a question or clarification. The 7.5 feet that's shown on your drawing, Mr. Beatty, is, of course, at the location where the house will be located, not the street level. You know, they're thinking that the street is 37.5 or whatever it was wide. The zoning, I think, would apply where the house is actually built from a side yard, not necessarily on on what the street is. Especially if you're on a cul-de-sac or anything like that, you always have different dimensions on it. And you have a drawing, and I should have asked you, but you have a drawing that shows that these lots are all 50 feet wide. Yeah, he's claiming that perhaps there was some sort of allowance when the house was initially built to make it on a wider lot. I don't think we have any verification of that here from the city or anybody else. That's kind of a interesting point here.
Yeah, it might need some more investigation. I can do that and return with that information if needed also.
I just throw that out as a comment here. I don't know what we're really dealing with is the problem.
Mr. Hagan, your sister said that she counted the blocks out there, and I guess this wasn't done, but you did not take a tape measure from pin to pin on the lots, lot corners?
We were just kind of estimating right before we got here. It was, yeah, and it was definitely an estimation, but we were just kind of checking because I didn't get this letter till the end of last week. I didn't hardly have time with work and what goes on to do much more than what we've got right now.
Sure. Any other questions for Mr. Hagan?
No.
Sir, if you'll give me that
Yes.
back, I appreciate it, and then grab a seat there with your sister.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please come forward. If not, I'll close the public portion of this hearing and ask for,
If I may, would Mr. Beatty be able to come back up?
Yeah.
I have a couple questions for Mr. Beatty.
yeah. I'll reopen, for technical purposes, I'll reopen the public portion of this meeting.
Just a couple questions here. I drove by earlier today and I saw there were flagged stakes. Has that been surveyed? It looked like there were some in the back. I didn't know if that was on a different lot or if that was from you guys.
I'm not sure. I got called at the last minute. Zach had a family thing and Sam is sick, so.
I just wasn't sure. I saw that back there, so I didn't know where that came from or if that was from, okay. And then, as far as you know, I'm assuming he's planning on selling the property?
Don't know
Do you know? Okay.
I've got a question on that I think that was your submittal that showed the lots being 50 feet wide. Do you know where that originated?
Just from the county. I mean, that's what the county has, those at 325 by 50.
And you have the Q number on there, so that's the lot number that they've got registered, correct? And you believe those were the dimensions that were shown on the records down in Hamilton? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to readdress the panel with anything new, or the board with anything new? All right, I'll reclose the public portion. Any?
Well, just from a discussion on our part, if the drawing that's presented there is accurate, and I have to believe that the engineer that received it from the county would have got it correct, I don't see an issue with the 7.5 feet. That's just my position.
Well, it would be 21 and, well, approximately 20 feet
Yeah, so the variance is for the lot width in total.
width.
I just mean that I would accept the 7.5 feet as reasonable there.
Any other comments? I mean,
I totally understand Mr. Hagan's position, but judging by the dimensions that are there and the setbacks that are being followed, like Mr. Heidenreich said, that I think it looks like a reasonable request to me.
I would like to add, I think that before if we accept this variance, that this dimension of 50 feet get verified and, we satisfy everybody in the room here that that's the correct dimension. 'Cause what you show there is different than what they believe is actual. And that should be resolved before you go ahead and break ground out there. And I don't know how to do that here.
I guess my concern is, and I'm not discounting the measurements that Ms. What was your last name? Ms. Hayes and Mr. Hagan made. But we've got a county drawing, which has been a recorded document with the county engineer's office and the auditor's office to reflect what the lot size is for that. And be sure that that neighborhood is probably a very old neighborhood, but there are plats of that subdivision there that show 50 feet. If you weigh the evidence, I think I have to look at it from the county's record standpoint that the 50-foot frontage of that lot is an accurate measurement. So and obviously, this application is for a residence which would completely fit within, apparently, according to the overheads we have here, would fit well within this neighborhood. So
Do you guys want me to pull up the county's auditor's website to look at the map?
yeah. Didn't know that you had that instant capability. Well, of course,
Well, the question is whether, if it was built long ago, sometimes they didn't follow the lot lines when they built the houses. That's the concern.
I've done this. I knew you could do this.
Yeah, me too.
On the side there, you should see a sketch. There it is, right there.
Yeah, you gotta go to the
Oh.
land.
I believe the land right
Land.
above there.
Okay. Can you all see that, Ms. Hayes and Mr. Hagan? The lot,
Does the
And
land
you were
give the
able to-
dimensions?
you were able to highlight that for us? Very good. So is the lot in red, that's the subject lot?
Yes.
And it looks like, and Mr. Hagan's residence is directly to the, just below that.
So that's not very accurate because I can't see what I'm doing
Yeah.
from here. But when I do it on my computer, on my screen, I do get
Ca-
like
If
49.9.
you highlight the land there, does that give the dimensions?
It doesn't. So you see, I used the measurement tool to measure the lot frontage, and it popped up 46.7, but I think I'm a little short on here because when I measure it on my computer, I'm getting about 49.9.
I'm not talking about the maps, I'm talking about the one 6 up, or 5 or 6 up, to see it says land, does that give a dimensional view of it? No, it doesn't? Okay.
Now it's going to keep doing that until you.
Just acres?
Could you go back to that last one that you had? Okay, yeah, you're scrolling down, that'll do it. Looks like Mr. Hagan's house is right on the line, doesn't it? If that red line is the,
And from my experience, these aren't exact.
Right.
okay. Any questions from the board regarding? All right. Ma'am, did you want to address with anything new?
I just, do you want me to come up there?
Well, yes, please.
Okay. As a little bit of a rebuttal, the edge of my brother's house, then there's another 6 feet of fence. So when the property line looks like it's right on the house, there's another 6 feet of yard there. So,
You don't have any reason to dispute the county's records that that lot's 50 foot across?
I would love to see.
I mean, you didn't
the
measure it.
actual measurements.
I'm not, the county does measure, and that's the thing. That's where
Yeah.
We've all,
I
we all,
measured from
we
my
all deal
brother's
with county
fence to
records.
the driveway of the next
Okay.
property.
All right,
Drove by, I know what you're talking about,
okay.
I'm sorry.
I said, I drove by there as well. I know what you're talking about, the fence next to his house, and then it looks like from the picture that the cars that are parked there, at least on that,
It's not a very wide property.
yeah,
if you
okay.
All right.
Okay. I appreciate.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Any other discussion? Motion?
Again, I totally understand Mr. Hagan's position. I do. I just see that these, in the current market, any housing in Middletown is beneficial to all citizens. We have a shortage of quality properties, and I believe a new construction home would be that. I would be in favor of approving this variance, and I would cite the criteria of the review criteria. One, being that it is a special circumstance of narrowness. I would also cite criteria 2, where a reasonable return from another beneficial use. In my estimation, vacant lots are not the most beneficial use. So those would be the 2 criteria I would base my motion on.
All right, we have a motion. I have a second.
I'll second it.
Ms. Fetters, if you call the roll.
Mr. Cash?
Yes.
Mr. Wanamaker?
Yes.
Mr. Gross?
No.
Mr. Heidenreich?
Yes,
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Thank you. The next application before the board is in case number 5-25. This is a request by applicant Dennis Beatty on behalf of property owner Zach Farrell for an area and dimensional variance for the property at 425 McKinley Street to construct a new single-family dwelling on a parcel that does not meet the minimum lot area or lot width site development standards for the subject zoning district. The property is zoned R4 attached residential district. The lot size is approximately 6,534 square feet. Middletown Development Code requires single-family homes in the R4 zoning district to be constructed on lots that are at least 9,000 square feet. The lot width ranges from approximately 29 feet wide to 40 feet wide. Middletown Development Code Chapter 1204.10B requires single-family dwellings in the R4 zoning district to be constructed on lots that are a minimum of 70 feet wide. Ms. Fetters?
Per the application submitted, the applicant requests the variance due to the lot being an infill lot that does not meet the current site development standards. The applicant does not believe, if granted, the variance will negatively impact surrounding properties or affect the delivery of governmental services. The purpose of the R4 attached residential district is to provide for moderate to high-density residential development, generally located in the core area of the city, and that reflects the historic urban development pattern in and around downtown Middletown. And then, per Middletown Development Code, Chapter 1204, Part 10, Part B, Table 1204-4, single-family dwellings in the R4 zoning district must have a minimum lot area of 9,000 square feet and a minimum lot width of 70 feet. The applicant requested decrease the minimum lot area by approximately 2,466 square feet and decrease the minimum lot width by approximately 41 feet to allow for the construction of a single-family home on the subject parcel. Per the Middletown Development Code, the requirement for legal notice for variance request and meeting notice letters for the proposed area and dimensional variance were sent to all property owners contiguous and directly across the street from the subject property. No comments have been received to date. Here's the variance application. The zoning permit. Some construction plans. The elevations of the house. The zoning map. Your review criteria. And the time limit in appeals. And that will conclude my staff report.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Fetters? again, another what do they call this lot, an infill lot?
Yes.
Infill lot. Did this did this residence have or did this lot have a residence on it previously?
I did not look.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
okay. This is an old neighborhood.
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to speculate, but if I was to speculate, I would say there was at one point in time. But again, not for evidentiary reasons. Any questions? Any other questions? All right, if that's no other questions, I'll open the hearing to hear anybody who's in favor of the application. Step forward. Do I need to swear? Yes, I will. It's not. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give this board will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. And identify us again.
Dennis Beatty, architect, 1900 First Avenue, Middletown, Ohio. Again, this is same as the last. In fact, I think it's the same floor plan. Infill lot. I do believe there was a house there that did get demolished during the time that they tore all the houses down. And Zach's he's bought the property and now wants to put a lot on there, or a house on there. So we're just asking for the variance because it doesn't meet current code, but with the infill lots, we've been getting a lot smaller lots. That's the size of the lot, so we have to build on it. And again, going to have another house for Middletown. So pretty much it.
Any questions?
One question is, now, is this a two-bedroom place, and what's the square footage on it?
The application.
You have to pull it.
1,400
I do so
square
much
feet.
work that I did this one a while back. Yeah, I think it's around 14, isn't it?
So it's a
Oh, yeah.
two-story structure?
1,400 square foot house. I think it's 3-bedroom, 2 bath.
Looks like 4-bedroom on that one.
Is it 4? I thought it was 3.
I see 3 there. Oh, it actually says 4, yeah.
That might be.
It does. Yep.
Between Dickie, Brandon, and Zach, we use the same floor plans over and over.
Any other questions for Mr. Beatty? Thank you, Dennis. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the application, please come forward. Anyone wishing to oppose the application, please come forward to testify. Seeing no one further to testify, I'll close the public portion of the meeting.
I just got a comment. You know, when you see that all the lots are the same width on a street, you know, this one's 40 feet, you know, it's hard to resist or hard to object to putting a house back on there as far as I'm concerned. And so I guess I'd be in favor of that variance.
This might not be in order, but can I ask Ms. Fetters a question? To what extent does the demolition of a structure on a residence trigger the new development code? I mean, what if you leave a foundation in the ground? Does that allow the reconstruction of the residence?
I'd have to find that language in the zoning code, but it's going to be something along the lines of when the majority of the building has been destroyed or demolished. You see that a lot when a non-conforming use, if there's a fire or some type of damage, right? When you reach a certain threshold point, and then the new code or the code as it stands at that time starts to apply.
And I can also speak to a little bit of that. When people ask for zoning verification letters, so they want to seek out if this would be a potential use, or maybe Dennis was asking, to see, can I rebuild this house? I know in our code, it's if something were to happen to that residential structure, regardless of what zoning district it's in, if it's non-conforming, it can always be rebuilt in its original footprint. So if you guys were rebuilding an original footprint, you could maybe argue, I'm not expanding the non-conforming use now. This might be bigger than the original house that was there.
That's helpful. Thank you. Do I have anyone wish to make a motion?
As Mr. Evans would like to. I would move to approve the application for the variance. And again, I would cite similar review criteria of a previous case of criteria 1 and 2.
Second?
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Cash?
Yes.
Mr. Wanamaker?
Yes.
Mr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Heidenreich?
Yes.
And Mr. Evans?
Yes.
All right, the next application is case number 6-25. This is a request by applicant Dennis Beatty on behalf of property owner Zach Farrell for an area and dimensional variance for the property at 4819 Caprice Drive to construct a new single-family dwelling on a parcel that does not meet the minimum lot width site development standard for the subject zoning district. The property is zoned R4, attached residential district. The lot width is approximately 49.5 feet. Middletown Development Code, Chapter 1204.10B requires single-family dwellings in the R4 zoning district to be constructed on lots that are a minimum of 70 feet wide. Ms. Fetters?
Sorry. Per the application submitted, the applicant requests a variance due to the property being another infill lot that does not meet the current site development standards. The applicant does not believe, if granted, the variance would negatively impact surrounding properties or affect the delivery of governmental services, as they will not be changed. And something I do want to call out, I was looking at the site plan before I came down to the chambers. The setback for this building is proposed to be 25 feet, not at least 30, which is, that would be another variance that would be needed. So I just wanted to call that out. The purpose of the R4 zoning district remains the same, so I won't read that. But the applicant does request to decrease the minimum lot width by approximately 20.5 feet from the 70 feet minimum lot width for a single-family dwelling lot in the R4 zoning district. And then I did also receive a voicemail about an hour and a half ago from one of the residents that lives on one of the sides of this property. I do believe there's a house there before, because she did say that the house on that lot prior to its demolition was at least 10 to 12 feet away from their house, so they would be all in favor of that setback being maintained. But they are in support of a new house being built there. And that's pretty much it
So,
for that
oh,
public.
I'm sorry. And you said that's it.
Sorry. Got ahead of myself. So in front of you is the variance application, the zoning permit, the proposed site plan, the proposed building, the zoning map, your review criteria, and the time limit and appeals. And that will conclude my staff report.
Go ahead, Jerry.
You mentioned that the front setback should be 30 feet, is that what you said?
Yes, so for the R4 zoning district, the minimum front yard should be at least 30 feet from parcel line to the front of the house.
Okay.
So you're looking at a 5-foot.
Well, does that
variance.
require a different variance request, or how do you want to?
I would defer to council on that, on what Amy would suggest.
I was responding
The
to
question
text.
is on the setback on the front is shown as 25 feet, and it's, the zoning code says it should be 30 feet. And I asked if that should be additional or an independent request, or if we can modify this existing one to accept that 30-foot setback.
Unfortunately, it's going to have to be a separate variance application because they have to be noticed per the code, and there's been no notification made to the neighbors. And I apologize for texting. I was responding to my kid who apparently needed something immediately.
At this time of the evening, I can understand that. Okay, so there's no way of shortcutting making, if this were variance were approved, subject to a 30-foot setback line, we need to,
It would, it
Notice.
technically would not be proper in accordance with the code.
because I think one of the neighbors, did you say, Ms. Fetters, you did get a voicemail from a neighbor who has no objection as long as the setback line is adhered to?
They're concerned about the side yard setback in this case, so yes.
Any,
Well, I just want to ask,
yeah, any other questions of staff?
No, that was my same question.
Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application, please step forward. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. And for the record, identify yourself.
Dennis Beatty, architect, 1900 First Avenue, Middletown. The reason we put it at 25 was all the other houses were at 25, and we were matching, we thought, what was there before. And that was really the only reason we put it at 25.
well, okay, the question I have then, hearing what the council has said, and is your plan to request a variance for that 5 foot of distance?
I would have to talk to Zach about that, or if we just moved it to 30, can it be approved?
My preference.
Yeah, if you moved it to 30, you would just submit new
I
zoning
will
permit.
talk to Zach about that, whether he wants to do another variance and wait another month, or move it back 5 feet, you know, and be out of line.
Well, they might, to fit the neighborhood, it might be better to have it at 25 feet, just like you started.
Yeah, well, it matches the other houses, so.
I guess I would encourage you to do that, just instead of pushing it back, but there's a lot of houses that bounce around on distance, I know that.
Like I said, I'll have to talk to my client for that, and we put the garage on the right side, because that's the sort of high side of the property, so.
All right. Any,
This is a bigger house. This is a different house than the other two that you looked at.
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, it's about 1,500, 1600 square feet.
I thought that was on your application.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Mr. Beatty? Thanks, Dennis. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the application, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the application, please come forward to be sworn. Since we don't see anyone coming forward, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and ask for board members' comments.
Just a point of clarification, I did notice there was a house on there. You can see the driveway apron is still there.
Good eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the apron there, yeah. Any other comments? Anyone wish to make a motion?
Looks like the driveway's on the other side of the house.
It's on the low side. We're going to put it on
Okay, so that apron, and what are you gonna do with that?
It's noted on the
Clear that
map.
out.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone inclined to make a motion? Huh?
I'm not the motion.
But I still, the question, I think, lingers, is, I mean, well, for me anyway, being new, if we say, if we approve this, then how does that react? If he's gonna come back, does it get held up, because now he has to come back with a separate variance for the 25-foot?
No.
Or does that get,
No, it would be up to the applicant to decide if he wants to seek another variance or just push his house, the proposed house back 5 feet.
You can go to 30 feet without cutting. in front.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Yep, they would be different.
gotcha. Thank you.
Anyone
I approve. I make the motion.
that the application be approved?
Approve.
Subject to what? Have you reviewed the criteria?
Yes, criteria 1 and 2, I mean, it's,
Thank you.
thank you.
We have a
I'll
motion.
second it.
Second?
Mr. Cash?
Yes.
Mr. Wanamaker,
Yes.
Mr. Gross,
Yes?
Mr. Heidenreich,
Yes.
and Mr. Evans.
Yes.
The next hearing will be in case number 7-25. This is a request by applicants the property owners, James and Barbara Profit, for an area and dimensional variance for the property at 316 Sharon Court to construct an enclosed insulated sunroom on the rear side of the house. The property is zoned O-1P Planned Development District. The proposed sunroom will encroach on the rear yard setback, being 19.2 feet from the rear property line. Middletown Development Code, Chapter 1206.01E15 requires porches and decks that are enclosed, that being with walls made of screening or other materials, meet the setback requirements for principal buildings in the applicable zoning district.
Per the application submitted, the applicant requests the variance due to the property being a corner lot with a shallow backyard. The applicant notes that the proposed enclosed patio would face the side of their neighbor's house that does not have any doors and rarely uses the yard the patio would face. Additionally, the applicant states that the variance is sought to utilize more of the property in a safe manner due to being handicapped. The applicant does not believe, if granted, the variance would negatively impact surrounding properties or affect the delivery of governmental services, as they will not be changed. So there are kind of two different purposes of this zoning district. The base zoning district, I believe, was 01 prior to that subdivision going in as that planned development. So I'm not going to read the 01 purpose. But the planned development district really is just to allow for deviations from certain zoning standards that would otherwise apply if not contrary to the general spirit and intent of this code. The subject property is located in Rosedale Woods subdivision, Section 5, which was approved by the City of Middletown Planning Commission on August 30th, 1995. Per the Middletown Development Code, Chapter 120601, Part D, Part 6, Part B, Part I, accessory uses for single-family dwellings in a planned development district shall be the same as those allowed in R1 district. Per the Middletown Development Code, Chapter 120601, Table 120601, porches and decks are permitted with standards in the R1 zoning district in the front, side, or rear yard of the parcel. Per the Middletown Development Code, Chapter 120601, Part E, Part 15, porches or decks that are enclosed with walls made of screening or other materials shall meet the setback requirements for principal buildings in the applicable zoning district. Per the Middletown Development Code, the requirement for legal notice for variance request and meeting notice letters for the proposed area and dimensional variance were sent to all property owners contiguous and directly across the street from the subject property. One comment has been received to date. The resident spoke in general support of their neighbor improving their property and asked for clarification on where the proposed structure would be located and how large the addition would be. I provided the proposed elevations and size of the proposed sunroom, and I did not hear back from the neighbor. Oh, and then something else I wanted to clarify that I didn't include in my PowerPoint. I went down a bit of a rabbit hole trying to find out what the rear yard setback is for this zoning district. It landed on 25 feet because when this was approved, like I said, the base zoning was 01, which was P1 or 2 back in 1995, and the rear yard setback for that base zoning district was 25 feet, effective in 1968. So they're asking for a little, over or under 6 feet. I can't do math right now, so.
And she didn't go down that rabbit hole alone.
Yeah, I did take Amy and Julie with me. So here's your variance application. Here is their zoning permit. So it's a 16 by 15 insulated sunroom. Here's the proposed elevations. In color. And then here is the recorded plat from the Butler County Recorder. And then the really big text is what I pulled off the second of the third page for section 5, which is just that the minimum setbacks for the rear yard shall meet the current zoning regulations. So that's where the 25 feet came into play. Here's the subject property. Here's the zoning map. Your review criteria. And the time limit and appeals. And that will conclude my staff report.
Any questions for Ms. Fetters? I do. So I'm guessing what you're saying is that by default, the setback line on a this was originally P1?
P1 or P2, I forget what it was originally zoned.
The setback there was 25 feet, but when the code was changed and made this an O-1P, rear setback lines were not
No, because
defined, so we're by default the 25 feet?
yes. So even if you look at the, it's almost easier, I guess, to go in as a, this is getting into planning commission stuff, but it's almost easier to do a plan development in a non-residential for residential, because that variance you need, or waiver you need, is not quite as drastic for such smaller lots than what we generally see.
Any questions, any other questions?
I'll wait for the.
If not, I'll open the public portion of the meeting. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application, step forward, ma'am, if you would, to be sworn. Take your time.
Yeah, downhill. You take your time.
Okay, if you'd raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thanks. And would you identify yourself, ma'am?
My name's Barbara Holly Prophet, 316 Sharon Court. I'm the person who sent in the application with my husband, who's sitting up there. And I wanted to talk about the fact that the reason why we want the room, we're both handicapped. We don't get to use our property very much because it's a lot of grass, as you can see, a lot of very bumpy land around there. So we were thinking if we put a sunroom out in the back, we'd be able to actually enjoy some of our property and have a little bit of a garden closer to the house. We want to make a better use of our property and enjoy more of the outside. We both have health issues, and it would be well served by the new space. And if we want to spread out a little bit more, our balance issues, which we both have, and I wouldn't wish on anybody, would not be so much of an issue inside the room. There's no shade. You can see that one tree there. It's one of those trees that nobody wants. There's really no shade back there, and we'd like to have some shade back there too. And I can't be out in the sun due to skin conditions and possible skin poisoning, so the next best thing to me would be to have a patio room back there. It's going to keep our floor plan level for us and enable us to better enjoy our home. It will give us more room to spread out. It will also help us to accommodate a day bed for when one of us is ill, which is a lot of the time for a fella up there. He's high maintenance. And it'll create a space to receive physical therapy whenever is needed. One point I wanted to make, and it's interesting sitting here listening to the property lines are estimated. Our property line, from what my parents-in-law told us, this was their home before my mother-in-law passed in June of last year, actually goes up to where you see that tree at the top there, and beyond that wall, the neighbor has actually built over onto our property. So where that little bit of an elevation goes and what you're seeing from the air, that's actually not right. I don't have the proof to show you that, but I bet it can be found. The parents-in-law said that, in fact, they had built their landscaping on there. They didn't really care too much because it was pretty to look at, and they never really had an issue with it. I do wonder if the actual line might make a difference in the findings of the city with regard to the setback, because if you measure that shed that you see there, it's 8 by 10. It's about 10 feet, maybe 11 feet more from the line that you see from the air there to the actual, what we believe is the real line. So there really wouldn't be much of an issue of a variance request, is what I'm thinking. As far as hardship, you guys said we have to have an example of hardship. It is a hardship for us because we've already started this process with the company that's proposing to build this, and they've already started charging us for it. And we just found out recently that that's non-refundable. So that's really all I have to say. Any questions?
Any questions for Mrs. Prophet?
Yeah, I do. Your drawings here that they did for you shows that the existing slab, do they intend to keep the slab there?
No, they don't. I don't understand why that's in there like that. It's going to be all new, very thick, deep.
Okay, because you need the footer and all that?
Yes.
Okay, very good. That's good.
Okay.
Anyone else had questions for Mrs. Prophet? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the application, please step forward. Sir, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And if you'll identify yourself.
It's Mike Ritchie. I'm the builder. I'm the installation supervisor for patio enclosures. So first, I just want to say thank you for going down that rabbit hole, because they were wondering whether or not the neighbors were encroaching on their property. So at 25 feet, that helps. Yeah, we are going to, I was just going to go over the facts of it. We're going to take the existing, what is 10-foot slab and take it out, and we're going to go about 6 feet out from there with a full insulated sunroom. And, you know, the entire neighborhood was set up the way it was explained when I found out about the variances. The entire neighborhood was set up, or it currently is under a 30-foot variance. And if you look, most of them are all lined up in the same row, and most of them, it's a common thing that I'm sure you deal with, I deal with all the time. And yeah, that's it, really. That's all I want to say.
Any questions?
I've got one.
Yes, sir.
Is there any entrance from the outside on this, or an exit?
Yes.
Okay, I can't read the drawing well enough. Either my eyes or the drawing's fuzzy, maybe both.
Let's see. Yeah, it's on the, I don't know, it's
I see.
right here in the bottom left, slider door.
That'd be on the north side, I think. By chance, have you located any markers or pins?
No.
I don't know if you've had any reason to do that,
No, there would have been a reason.
outlining the property. Okay, good enough. Any other questions?
Is there any external heating or air conditioning on it?
No, I believe there will be a PTAC unit installed on the other side, right there, if you see the little square on what is a wall there.
Okay,
So,
that's great.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
thank you for your time.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the application, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the application, please come forward. All right, I'll close the public portion of the hearing, of the meeting. Comments? Questions?
Looks like a good improvement form as far as I'm concerned.
And review criteria, if we have a motion. If someone makes a motion, please cite the review criteria that you believe is applicable.
I would move to approve the variance, and I would cite criteria 1 again, that is a bit of a peculiar lot, and I believe the setbacks do require a special, do make a special condition at that property. I would also probably cite criteria 9, that the spirit and intent of the code is still being observed even with this variance.
I'll second that.
Mr. Cash?
Yes.
Mr. Wanamaker?
Yes.
Mr. Gross?
Yes?
Mr. Heidenreich?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, let's see.
Mr. Cash, I'm going to recuse myself from this next case.
Thank you. I don't know how we make the record reflect that. Mr. Wanamaker is recusing himself from the discussion and consideration of this application.
I think you just did make the record reflect that.
Thank you. I thought I might have. Okay, I'm trying to find the okay, here it is. The next case before the board is case number 8-25 for the property located at 236 North Briel Boulevard. This is a request by applicant, and I apologize, Aisha? Oh, okay, good. Aisha Mustafa for a use variance for the property at 236 North Briel Boulevard to allow for an assisted living facility. The property is zoned O1 Office District. The variance requested is to allow for the skilled nursing or personal care facility use type in the O1 zoning district, a prohibited use according to Table 1204-3 of the Middletown Development Code. Ms. Fetters, thank you.
So per the application submitted, the variance is requested due to the hardship presented by the physical attributes of the property, such as design, layout, and proximity to essential services, are not fully utilized due to the current zoning regulations. The applicant does not believe, if granted, the variance would negatively impact surrounding properties or affect the delivery of governmental services, as they will not be changed. The purpose of the O1 Office District is to provide for areas of general office and non-retail commercial uses that support community needs within small-scale developments. This district may also serve as a land use transition between residential uses and higher intensity uses, such as commercial uses and high-volume streets. Per the Middletown Development Code, Chapter 1230, a skilled nursing facility is defined as a long-term or short-term residential facility that provides skilled nursing services in a facility that is not in a traditional dwelling type, such as a single-family dwelling. Such facilities shall not mean the same as hospitals or group home. See also personal care facility, which is why I also included personal care facility, which is defined as a long-term or short-term residential facility that provides personal care in a facility that is not in a traditional dwelling type, and this does not mean all the same, but ironically, that use type is combined, skilled nursing and personal care facility. That being said, the skilled nursing or personal care facilities use type is a prohibited use in the O1 zoning district. The applicant requests a variance to allow for a proposed use type in the O1 zoning district. Per the Middletown Development Code, the requirements for legal notice for variance requests and median notice letters for the proposed use variance were sent out to all property owners contiguous and directly across the street or public right-of-way of the subject property. 2 comments have been received to date. One resident is concerned about who would be utilizing the facility in the immediate future, as well as should the current applicant ever leave the property and the use of the variance be continued by other entities, maybe deviating from the elderly to care for other, such as like a drug rehab facility. The resident is also concerned about the noise level that would be associated with such a facility if emergency vehicles are frequenting the business at all hours of the day. The resident also spoke about the landscaping maintenance, as well as the desire for a privacy fence to be installed and maintained in place of the existing chain link fence. The other comment received has been forwarded to the Board of Zoning Appeals that spoke in support of this variance, which is seen on the screen. Here's the variance application. It is pretty lengthy, so I imagine the applicant will want to speak. I didn't want to over summarize. You took a lot of time. here is table 1204-3 that shows skilled nursing or personal care facilities is a prohibited use in the O1. And here's the subject property. The zoning map. Your review criteria. And then the time limit appeals process, and that will conclude my staff report.
Any questions for Ms. Fetters?
The building is existing currently, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
I believe the realtor who's selling the property said it's sat vacant for 2.5 years.
So the intended use here falls within the definitions of skilled nursing facility and personal care facility?
Yes, assisted living.
Do either of those, and I'm reading it and it doesn't appear to be such, it's there, do either of these limit the recipient of the care to elderly, or is it across the board demographics wise, age wise?
It's kind of interesting. So like it says, it does not include transitional housing, so that's what I imagine the one resident is concerned about. No. Short answer, no. It's just defined as a short-term residential facility that provides skilled nursing services. That is not a traditional dwelling type.
So this resident's concern, if this were granted and the owner transfers ownership, it's feasible then that, or plausible that someone could come in and under the variance granted operate an in-house rehab center?
Skilled nursing, have we already given them the definition? Yeah. Nursing services and procedures employed in caring for the sick. I'd have to give that some, I'd have to look into that a little bit closer and look at some other definitions in the code to see. But I did want to mention that this board can only take action with a vote of 4.
I'm sorry?
This board can only take action with a vote of 4. And since there's only 4 of you on the dais, for an approval of this, it would have to be a vote of 4-0.
Okay.
But to answer your question, give me a minute.
Okay.
If you want to go ahead and move on with your hearing, you can do that. And I may not be able to answer that question conclusively. And
Well, I'm just looking at the two definitions that Claire read, and it doesn't seem to limit it to any particular age demographic. It looks as though
right,
that could be anybody who falls within the definition of
sick.
being in the need of skilled nursing care.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions, to Ms. Fetters?
I do have one. Ms. Fetters, in the O1 office district requirements, it says general office, and I see in the photographs that building was a dental office. Does dental office fall under a general office criteria?
Hang on. I'm going the wrong way. Okay, it's not up there. So I would imagine that that would fall under medical and dental office use type. And you guys are asking some good questions tonight. Okay, yes, that is a permitted use in the O1. Dental offices, yes.
And the intended use here, based upon your knowledge of the code, the intended use doesn't, wait a minute, let me see, I kind of lost the train of my thought there. The intended use of an assisted living facility for elderly people, that particular use doesn't fall into any other criteria under, in the table that you just had up here. It is 12.
No, I think that's the best
0403.
fit for it,
So
yeah.
that's- Okay. Any other questions? All right,
To circle back to your question, I do not believe that we could foreclose the possibility of some type of drug rehabilitation based on that skilled nursing definition.
because that type, hold on, ma'am, hold on. And that type of facility would still fall under the definition of skilled nursing care, and
I'm
if,
certainly not seeing enough in the code to suggest that it wouldn't. I don't see a separate definition for that. And skilled personal care facility and skilled nursing facilities both specifically exclude other types of uses, but they do not exclude those.
thank you. Any other questions for staff? If not, I'll open up the meeting to the public. Ma'am, anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application, please step forward here. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. And identify yourself, if you would.
My name is Aisha Mustafa. I currently reside at 7399 Lake Park Drive in Westchester. I am a current Butler County citizen, and I have been in the healthcare field for a little over 10 years now. And I currently own a non-medical home health care agency out in the Westchester area, as well as the surrounding areas in Middletown. And we also service clientele within the Middletown area also, and as well as the Dayton area as well, in their communities and their counties. I also actually have a drawing that I had to sketch very quickly because, unfortunately, a lot of our calls to certain architects were not available for a few amounts of months before today's meeting, so I'd like to present these to you if that's okay.
Do you have copies for each of us?
I sure do.
And if you'll give one of
Yes.
those copies to Ms. Fetter so it goes into the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then also, yes, Ms. Feathers, I also submitted the floor plan that I was able to find online through Butler County to your email, and it was actually just moments prior to coming into the office. No, that's okay. I just wanted to, because I didn't see it up there, and I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that also. To kind of give an explanation, and going back onto the question with that resident who had the issue that it could potentially be some type of like rehab or drug-related facility, within the state of Medicaid, within the state of Ohio through the Ohio Department of Medicaid, unfortunately, for it to be accessible for a rehab potential facility, it would have to house over 20 individuals. And currently in the state of Ohio, there is nothing that allows private payers, I would say, to assemble certain individuals to go in and live in these facilities or do any type of rehab or drug-related issues. So rehab and drug-related issues, as well as assisted livings, we're all through the Department of Medicaid. And so I don't believe that this building per se would be suitable for a rehab facility, nor would it be accepted by the Department of Medicaid either. I believe the members on this chamber also wouldn't agree to that either. Most rehab facilities have to be, if I'm not mistaken, because I actually looked into opening one a very long time ago, it actually has to be kind of alone within its own community and nothing surrounding it, just because of the variance of that population and the overhead of what's going on in that facility. To give an explanation about the assisted living facility, we actually would like to house about 5 clientele within that building. And that building would essentially be structured to 5 suites. Each suite would be containing a full-size, queen-size bedroom with a shower, sink, small stovetop with a microwave, and a sitting space for our residents who plan to stay at our facility. Now, our company actually is only contracted with the Department of Medicaid, who is through the Council on Aging, which only allows us to have over the age of 60 clients. There is nobody under the age of 60 that could live in these certain assisted living facilities that we are trying to look into. For that being said, I know that someone, I guess neighborings, indicated that there could be potential noise not coming from the facility itself, just because it is of older age in the facility. Now, if an ambulance was to pass by, we can't really say for certain how many times an ambulance may pass by for a specific person. So I can't really dictate that. So I apologize for not having that full regards of information. But in the sense of these elderlies, we are here to house them and provide personal care services, where the personal care services is not essentially a skilled nursing service. A skilled nursing service under the Ohio Department of Medicaid is classified more so with certain insulin shots or pulse readers or any type of blood transfusions or infusions. We will not pertainly do any of that. This is more of an independent assisted living where these clients are free to go out shopping on their own, to go to the restaurant on their own, or by the transportation providers that are through and paid by the Department of Medicaid through their insurance company. We would be housing staff members, which would be classified as STNAs or certified caregivers, who are going to be full-time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week within the facility on a rotating 10-hour shifts, where they would go in and make sure that every single person has breakfast, lunch, dinner fed, needs a bath, needs assistance in walking, needs educational support, or just ideally being a person there for them whenever they need it. Thorough, I guess, my understanding of the variance today is that because it is not classified as an assisted living facility, and unfortunately a lot of buildings in the state of Ohio are not classified as assisted living facilities, but since it did fall under a category where it is an office space for medical reasons, my husband and I took consideration into looking into this property because of the layout of it and because of the depth of the structure and the uniqueness of it, that could house the 5 clientele that we hope to bring in someday into this facility. And the surrounding area is very wide. So I don't see a potential issue in regards to fixing up, I think someone said a fence, or having some surrounding area where we can take care of the necessities of that place. So by all means, that's not an issue to us at all. So I think that's much as what I have to say, yeah.
Any questions for Ms. Mustafa?
Okay,
I
go
do,
ahead.
ma'am.
Go ahead.
You're familiar with the access programs in Butler County? I don't know what, it's a walk-in counseling center. There's one up on Cincinnati Dayton Road, and there's one down
Correct.
on Central Avenue here.
Yes, I have heard of them. I have not.
Those aren't in-house treatment programs. I think these are where people come and go and meet with a counselor.
Correct.
Or whatever the purpose might be.
Correct.
In your research, you said that if it was a rehab facility, it would have to house at least 20 individuals?
That is what we are aware of in the state of Ohio.
You know, from my description of the Access Counseling Centers, that criteria probably wouldn't apply because people aren't staying overnight or
It is-
residents there.
It's considered outpatient.
Outpatient.
Yes, we would be considered inpatient for the Council on Aging seniors through the Butler County. Yes.
But from what I'm gathering, and I didn't ask staff this, but if you were to transfer ownership, it appears that that type of a facility such as Access runs,
Yes.
a drop-in counseling center
Yes.
would then be would be a use that building could be put to.
I would believe so. Yeah. I more so looked into the inpatient.
Oh, I know that.
Yes.
But I'm looking at it from the perspective of a neighbor who fears something, a high traffic
Yes.
of people that are challenged with drug and mental health issues.
Correct. Absolutely. And now we're looking into staying in this property for a very long
Well, I
time.
understand that, but
And,
nothing's
yes.
written in stone.
That is
We
correct.
we can't make you own that property
Yes.
for ad infinitum. We can't do that.
Absolutely. But as you recalled, yes, if an inpatient facility was to potentially come in, I don't believe that the personal care actually falls into that category. Personal care is mainly with assisting them with bathing, showering, changing, toiletry, as well as feeding. And in-home rehab centers outpatient rehab centers actually don't do any of those. They do mainly just the skilled nursing settings of it, where they provide such abuse drugs. For example, there's a drug called Suboxone that they provide out there that allows individuals to come in rotationally and get that shot until their treatment has been completed. But of course, it could be classified. I guess this category is classified either or as skilled nursing or personal care.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions for Ms. Mustafa?
Okay, I don't even know where to start because I don't know much about
Sure.
the field that you're in. So give me a little room when I start asking something really stupid.
It's okay.
But anyway, you're going to have people in there 24 hours a day on a rotating basis, 7 days a week. You intend to have 5 residents that live in the property. I take it that none of them have any cars or anything that they can drive off? You said they had the freedom to leave and come and go. Do they have vehicles then, some of them?
A majority of them probably will not. A lot of the assisted living facilities that we have looked into, and as well as the atmosphere that I've worked in, they do not. But per their insurance companies, they have transportation available. So they can call their transportation provider and say, hey, I have a doctor's appointment scheduled March the 3rd. I'd like to go. So we don't physically have to go with them.
Okay, on an everyday basis, you mentioned that your people are that take care of the facility and the people in it.
Yes, sir.
They will feed them. Where is that food prepared?
That food will be prepared in the facility.
So there's some sort of
Kitchen.
permit that you are allowed to serve food in there to people, or how do you handle the?
Yeah, so the assisted living, so when you get contracted with the Council on Aging, they request that either a company called Meals on Wheels come in and sponsor those clientele throughout the day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or we support them, which would essentially give us the contract agreement between the Council on Aging as well as our assisted living facility to house those food for them. Now, there are programs that, for example, through the federal agricultural program, where certain kids, basically elementary kids, they have free and reduced lunches. We would be utilizing the same exact programs, but we would be paying those out-of-pocket expenses and not become free to our residents. We would be paying it as a facility for these patients to receive their food 3 times a day.
Okay, since you're dealing with the elderly there and they may have episodes where they need help medically, the people that you have staying there are not doctors or qualified to actually give medical advice, are they?
No, sir, we have two registered nurses that will be on staff 24 hours a day. So we would
They're
have.
on call, basically.
There would be also nurses on call. Again, this is an independent assisted living, so it's not any type of Alzheimer's or memory care. Independent basically just means of someone of age that can't physically live on their own, but still need the assistance of getting up every single day.
I don't know what else to ask.
Yeah, that's okay.
Any other questions?
Yes, I do. Ms. Mustafa, this map this layout you gave us, I'm
Yes.
assuming some of the furniture and whatnot is how it's set up now?
It's actually not set up at all like this.
Okay.
The interior is a dentist office, and so there is dental supplies everywhere.
Okay,
So-
all right, so I see you just sketched in a couple.
Yes, but each room, as it looks like right now, is what each dentist office each dental room technically looks like. But there is just no walls in between. There's just actually like maybe I would say like half a foot of a wall in between every chair that they have in that office.
Okay. Now, when you spoke about the meals, and I think briefly you stated, making meals there.
Correct.
Where would that happen in?
So, yes, and I apologize, this was sketched out
Sure,
very quickly.
understood.
So, by the laundry area is actually where we were planning to add just a half bathroom for staff, and then also a miniature kitchen in there, which would only be consumption of a stovetop, a microwave, and a mini fridge. Though the food that we would be receiving would just be the daily nutritions that each clientele would be requested of to have, and of course certain clientele who are diabetic or have allergies would also have separate meals within that refrigerated section.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, a couple more questions.
Yes.
Since you have 5 independent people there, I imagine they're gonna interact and become friends. Do you have any social facility there where they can
Yes.
play cards or whatever they're allowed to do?
Yes. The reception, where I have it labeled as reception, that's actually more so of like a living room base for family and friends to come visit these clientele, also to engage with one another. And the building is actually very unique and it's beautiful. It has a bunch of structured glass windows everywhere, and the sunlight directly comes in, and it's phenomenal. I've actually seen it myself when it was a little bit darker, and based on the images that are online, that this is exactly what it looks like, and it almost looks like a little how can I say this? Like a little cozy cave. So the name of the agency would typically be called Cozy Cove, and the reason of it is because of the building structure and the way it's outlined, and individuals can go outside and actually take some fresh air and not go too far from the facility.
That was another question. Are you gonna give them like an outside sitting area or something?
There is actually, and it's actually not the best, but we plan to allocate multiple outside sittings where I believe if you take a look at that there's gosh, I'm actually having trouble seeing it also, but in between the two sides of the buildings, there's actually just like a small picnic table, which is not the best condition, but we plan to escalate that to the best area for them to sit outside.
Appear
Yes.
to be well prepared for this, so I'm kind of pleased with that.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Ma'am, do you and your husband own this property right now?
No, we do not actually. The contract actually is going into effect as of today.
Is it contingent upon this variance being granted?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Is it contingent or conditioned? Do you have an out in your contract if you don't get this variance?
Yes, absolutely. Because there's no need for me to have a building and just sit there. I wish I was a dentist. That'd be nice for me to have.
That's what I was hoping you said.
Yes.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application, please step forward. Anyone? Oh, okay.
I have a question.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And identify yourself, please.
Dennis Beatty, architect, 1900 First Avenue, Middletown. My question is, if you get a variance on a building, because I've ran into this before, and you sell that building, doesn't that variance go away?
Nope.
It never goes away? Because I worked on a building in Dayton, and they didn't, or is there a time limit when it goes away?
So the variance runs with the land, not the owner.
Okay,
So if the use ceases for, I believe, 12 months, then
that's what it is.
then the variance
It's one-
expires.
Okay, because I've ran into that before where somebody tried to buy something that was already running, but it had been 2 years.
Well, and that timeline is going to be specific to community. That's not consistent statewide.
Okay, that was my question, I'm sorry.
I think I was, anyone else wishing to speak at this point in time in favor of or in opposition of the application, please step forward. All right. I'll close the public portion of this meeting. Comments? I do have a question for staff. Could you put up the use, the table for, there. And I'm looking at the use review criteria, or use variance review criteria, and F, at least on, F, indicates that the proposed use is listed in 1204-3, table 1204-3. It's listed, but does that mean it's listed and as it's listed?
I think it just means that it's not a use that we haven't defined in the development code.
So, okay. All right, thank you. I think that cleared that up. Any discussion? I know where this building is. I mean, I think everybody here knows where the building is. And it is somewhat isolated from Walton Court, which is kind of a northwest direction from this building. And then the dermatology, Ridge's dermatology, is right next door. But it's separated by some greenery. I mean, this use is absolutely prohibited unless we find that it isn't prohibited. How do we grant this use variance?
That's what I see. I mean, I don't know any other structure close to where there's people living in there overnight and whatnot.
But my point was, if this is a use, either skilled nursing or personal care facility, is a use that's not prohibited with any kind of conditions, if this variance were granted, do we just negate or nullify the code section there that makes this a prohibited use? We would be, correct?
So that's the nature of a use variance, is that the board has the authority, case by case, to consider and approve a use that's currently prohibited.
One more thing I wanted to bring up, if you notice the language in the use variance review criteria, it says clear and convincing evidence that all of the following criteria are satisfied.
All. I don't, personally, I mean, I think that the use is, I applaud Ms. Mustafa for her preparation and description of the services to be rendered. I guess my fear would coincide with the other a neighbor's fear that if and when Ms. Mustafa no longer owns this building, the control over the use of that building, if it falls within a skilled nursing or personal care facility definition, it would be automatically available to that new buyer. And that And that's a wide open, that's a wide definition of, that would allow for certain things, certain unintended consequences if the property were transferred. We can't, I don't know, is that a legitimate basis for us to, is that something legitimate for the board to consider, the fact that a variance travels with the land? I mean, it is, if I lived on Walton Court, I might be concerned that this facility no longer is housing elderly assisted living residents, but is now being used for something that falls within the definition of those uses and would be absolutely permitted.
I think I would encourage the board to stick to your use variance
Yeah, okay.
review criteria.
Right.
And if, you know, any decision that you make, base it on these standards.
True. Any
Well,
Any pros and cons? I mean, I think, you know, obviously, again, I know where the property is, and it's isolated to the point where the intended use by Ms. Mustafa doesn't appear to be any, contrary to the intention of the code.
I read down through these, and I really don't see anything that would disqualify it based on the use criteria down here. The first one in particular, property cannot be put to any economically viable use under any of the permitted uses in the zoning district. It's been vacant for 2 years. Before that, it was vacant for a while, and, I mean, it's just kind of sat there.
And become somewhat dilapidated at least
Yeah.
from the outside, from the exterior.
Yeah, and the other things apply, I think, in this case. The neighborhood's not substantially altered, et cetera, et cetera. If you go down through the list. I think it's a good use of the facility.
well, to Dave's point, you know, granting of the variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, and general welfare. We're kind of saying that we don't believe it will under its current application's position, but the future end of it is the unknown.
Right.
I guess the unknown future is not one of the criteria that we.
No, it's not. And if it does, you know, if she would sell and it would go out, or it would go longer than a year, then the variance expires anyway.
Well, I don't hear any objections up here.
I'm going through this list carefully, and I'm trying to find, you know,
Are you finding anything other than the fact that it is a proposed use in 1204-3? I mean, and again, we can
The use variances are always tough.
we can negate that or do I hear? Yes, ma'am? If you want to step forward here, so we make sure that we get a record of what you're telling us.
So in the future, if I were to purchase this property and then, God forbid, something happened to me and I no longer want to use this property as an assisted living facility, would I be able to come back and redo the variance back to its normal zoned code? I mean, I can do that if that's allowable.
So the underlying zoning uses will always be allowable. This is just adding on another use on top.
Oh, okay. So I guess hypothetically speaking, if I tried to sell, just like council member said, if I tried to sell and it doesn't sell for 12 months, then the variance is no longer valid.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Another idea for the board, if this is useful to you. And I just lost the language. But the board has the right to condition variances. So perhaps the board can condition it that this use is tied to this particular applicant. And upon a sale or a transfer of the land, the use variance would terminate.
No.
Explain that again.
Didn't know we could do that.
No,
Let me,
never done that.
give me a second on
Yeah.
this.
I'm gonna move out of here.
Okay,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll get back with you in a minute.
all right, fine. I think that might answer a question.
Right, what you said though is true. We can't anticipate,
That's it.
so it doesn't really have a play on this thing.
No, it doesn't.
So, you know, and I don't hear anybody violently objecting to this, so I guess I will move that we accept the variance.
With a condition possibly. Let's see.
If you want to condition the variance, you can. And I would, if you want to move in that direction, I would condition it that the use variance is tied to this particular applicant and this owner, and that if the property transfers ownership, that the use variance is no longer valid. The problem with that, of course, will be enforcement and knowledge, knowing that it has transferred. Those can be difficult things to track down, and it's not necessarily on. When you purchase property, anyone can look up the zoning. It's a little bit more difficult to determine if it's operating under an existing use variance. But that would be, something to address at the time of transfer. And if it's something the board wants to consider, then that's certainly something you could consider.
Yeah. Did you understand that,
I'm not sure.
Gary?
Yeah, I
Want
understand.
to make a motion?
Sure. I move that we grant this variance, the use adjustment, subject to the condition that the property's use variance, as stated, would expire on transfer to a new owner.
And finding that all the use
Yes,
variance
find all
review
the
criteria have
criteria have been satisfied.
A second.
I'll remove my initial request.
Okay. Did you second it, Tom?
A second.
We have a
Mr.
motion and a second. Thanks.
Mr. Cash?
Yes.
Mr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Heidenreich?
Yes.
And Mr. Evans?
Yes. Good luck.
Good luck. Okay. The next matter is under old business is a request for an area and dimensional variance in case number 1-25. It appears that the applicant has withdrawn its application.
Yes, and here is the request to withdraw in writing submitted on the 21st of February.
All right. Now, do we need a motion to accept the applicant's
Yes,
removal, I guess, or withdrawal
Withdrawal.
of its application?
yes.
Somebody wish to make a motion?
I'll move to accept the applicant's withdrawal of their application.
I'll second it.
Mr. Cash?
Yes.
Mr. Wanamaker?
Yes.
Mr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Heidenreich?
Yes.
And Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Okay, there not being any additional business, old or new, before the board. I never know whether we need a motion to adjourn.
Let's do
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
All signified by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Thank you.